Imagine waking up on Christmas morning, ready to celebrate, only to discover Christmas is banned. Yes, you heard that right. In the year 1659, our Puritan forebears in the Massachusetts Bay Colony decreed a ban on Christmas. Celebrating Yuletide could land you with a hefty 5-shilling fine. No carols, no feasts, no merriment. Just another chilly winter day. So how did we get to a point where the most wonderful time of the year became illegal? Strap in, folks, because this is going to be a wild sleigh ride. Now, picture a group of folks that could outdo Scrooge on his worst day. The Puritans. Let's take a step back to a time when being a party pooper wasn't just a personality trait, but a religious conviction. The Puritans, a group of English Protestants in the 16th and 17th centuries, were the ultimate buzzkills. Picture your strictest schoolmaster, crank up the severity by 100, and you've got a Puritan. They were the type of folks who'd call a town meeting about the indecency of laughter. Their name itself, Puritans, gives a clue about their nature. It comes from their desire to purify the Church of England from what they saw as Catholic residue. They were all about strict moral codes, austerity, and a no-nonsense lifestyle. Now, when it came to Christmas, the Puritans were about as fun as a wet blanket on a bonfire. To them, Christmas was a frivolous, wasteful, and downright sinful celebration. They saw no biblical justification for celebrating Christ's birth on December 25th. Plus, the holiday's roots in pagan winter solstice festivals didn't sit well with them either. Imagine them as the grumpy neighbor who complains about your Christmas lights being too bright or your carols being too loud. Except they didn't just grumble under their breaths. Oh no, they took their party pooping to a whole new level. For the Puritans, Christmas was an affront to their religious beliefs. The feasting, the drinking, the merrymaking, the gift-giving, it all reeked of excess and immorality to them. And they weren't just content to sit out the festivities, they wanted everyone else to do the same, and they were ready to enforce it by law. So if you were planning a Christmas party, don't invite the Puritans. Their idea of a wild night was a heated debate about scripture, and their favorite party trick was spoiling everyone else's fun. In short, they were the ultimate party poopers. But why did the Puritans have such a beef with Christmas? Let's just say they weren't fans of the eat, drink, and be merry part. Now, you might be thinking that the Puritans were just a bunch of party poopers. But in their eyes, they were simply trying to keep things holy and devout. One of the main reasons they frowned upon Christmas was because they saw it as a decadent celebration. To them, the holiday was less about the birth of Jesus and more about the birth of indulgence. Picture this, a Puritan walking into a Christmas party only to find people feasting, drinking, and making merry. Oh, the horror. They'd probably turn around faster than you can say mince pie. Now, it wasn't just the decadence they had a problem with. They also believed that Christmas wasn't truly Christian. They argued that there was no mention of celebrating Christ's birth in the Bible. And to them, if it wasn't in the good book, it had no place in their society. They even went as far as to claim that Christmas had pagan roots. Yes, you heard that right. The Puritans believed that the jolliest holiday of the year was nothing more than a repackaged pagan festival. And let's not forget about their issue with the date. December 25th, they scoffed at the idea. They pointed out that the exact date of Jesus' birth wasn't stated in the Bible. So celebrating it on a specific day was, in their view, arbitrary and nonsensical. It's a bit ironic, isn't it? The Puritans, in their quest to keep their faith pure, ended up banning a celebration that's now synonymous with joy, love, and giving. It's like they saw the holiday season approaching, looked it straight in the eye, and said, "Not on my watch." And that, folks, is how Christmas became the holiday equivalent of the Grinch for the Puritans. They might have been trying to keep their faith pure, but in the process, they certainly put a damper on the festive spirit. So, what happened when you tried to sneak in a little Christmas cheer? Well, you better have deep pockets. You see, the Puritans didn't just ban Christmas. They enforced it with a vigor that would make a mall Santa blush. If you were caught celebrating or even whispering Merry Christmas, you'd be fined 5 shillings. Now, 5 shillings might not sound like much today, but back in 1659, it was a hefty sum, equivalent to a week's wages for a skilled craftsman. So unless you were the Bill Gates of the 17th century, you'd likely think twice before decking the halls. But did that stop everyone? Of course not. There's always one or two who just can't resist a good holiday shindig. Take old Ebenezer Scrooge, for example. No, not the miserly one from Dickens' tale, but a real-life chap who shared the same name. Ebenezer was caught red-handed, roasting a goose on Christmas Day. The constables didn't take kindly to this festive fowl feast and slapped Ebenezer with a fine that could have bought him a flock of geese. And then there was the case of the clandestine carolers, a group of rebellious souls who decided to serenade their town with Christmas tunes under the cover of night. But their rendition of "God Rest Ye Merry Gentlemen" was anything but restful, and they were promptly caught and fined. However, it's said they continued their midnight melodies in jail, proving that you can't quell the Christmas spirit entirely. So the Puritans really put the crack in Christmas crackdown. And while it might seem like they were being a bunch of Grinches, they were just trying to uphold their beliefs in a time of great religious tension. So if you thought your parents were strict for not letting you open presents until Christmas morning, think again. But as we all know, you can't keep a good holiday down. Imagine the scene. It's the late 17th century, the Puritans have lost control of the government, and the Christmas ban is lifted. The first legal Christmas day must have been like finding an extra present hidden under the tree. The joy, the relief, the anticipation of that first bite of roast beast after a long enforced hiatus. Picture the townsfolk, their eyes wide with delight as they dust off their long-abandoned festive attire. The rustle of tinsel, the clinking of glasses, the smell of pine and spice filling the air as the Christmas spirit was uncorked like a vintage bottle of Yuletide cheer. Imagine the children having heard tales of Christmases past, finally experiencing the magic for themselves. The laughter, the games, the sweet taste of forbidden festive treats. I bet those mince pies tasted like rebellion and victory. And then the moment everyone had been waiting for. The roast beast, back on the menu. The sizzle of the roast in the oven. The aroma wafting through the air. The sound of the first slice being carved. It was more than a meal. It was a symbol of freedom, a gastronomic take that to the puritanical party poopers. And so Christmas returned, bigger and better like a boomerang wrapped in tinsel. So, from banned holiday to beloved tradition, how did Christmas become what it is today? Well, buckle up because we're about to take a sleigh ride through history. Let's rewind to the mid-17th century. Christmas was a mere shadow of the festive spectacle we know today, more akin to a rowdy street carnival than a cozy family gathering. The Puritans, in their infinite wisdom, decided to ban the whole shebang. No carols, no feasts, no fun. Bah humbug indeed. Fast forward a century or two and the tide began to turn. Christmas was back on the calendar, but it was a far cry from our modern celebrations. Think less jingle bells, more silent night. The focus was on religious observance and quiet reflection. Not exactly a recipe for a rockin' Christmas party. So, how did we get from there to here where Christmas is synonymous with twinkling lights, decked halls, and a jolly man in a red suit? Well, it was a gradual evolution shaped by cultural shifts, commercial interests, and a healthy dose of Victorian sentimentality. The traditions we've kept are a curious mix of the secular and the sacred. We still sing carols, though they're more likely to be about Rudolph than the Nativity. We feast like there's no tomorrow, but our Yuletide menu has expanded to include everything from turkey to tofu. And while we might not be cutting down a Yule log, many of us still bring a tree into our homes, even if it's made of plastic. As for the traditions we've lost, well, let's just say that the Puritans might be relieved to know that Christmas no longer involves public drunkenness and rowdy street parties. Although some might argue that the office Christmas party comes pretty close. So, the next time you're unwrapping presents or caroling, spare a thought for our Puritan pals, who might just be rolling in their graves